right, so here's what's wrong with the NBA. Go. Throughout the years, the NBA has done a really good job at packaging their material. They've always kept a good crop of stars lingering about at the same time long enough to make the passing of the torch a little easier. What I've come to notice in recent years is that's becoming a lot harder for them to do. So they're handing us things that aren't necessarily finished product. And here's what I mean. Let's take a dip back in time only for comparison's sake. When MJ came into the league, MJ was the anomaly. What began to happen after MJ is there was always some sort of draft pick that had an MJ prototype they were looking to come out of the draft. Do the knowledge for yourself. Google it. Do whatever you got to do. I've done it. I've had this discussion 1,000 times. This is what leads me to this. Right when LeBron came, he also shifted the league in how it began to draft and where it saw its talent. LeBron was a physical anomaly that the league had not seen ever, that combined all the necessary skills of what you would almost refer to as a five-tool player. He did all of the right things right. We hadn't seen that since maybe Magic, and Magic had his offensive flaws. So right now, we got so spoiled by the longevity of LeBron and the longevity of a Steph and the longevity of a KD that this young crop that came in that's very underdeveloped. We have very few young standouts that you could say will be here for the next 15 years dominating like Steph, KD, and LeBron. You have a few, and by few, I mean Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Wemby. Luka is heading into LeBron's second trip to Cleveland status. He's at that point where he needs to start proving he's a winner. That's the point where Luka's at. So Luka still has a few more years, but he's still a vet by comparison to the other names that I mentioned. Jalen Green, and pardon any names that I leave off because I'm really NBA ignorant at this point, but that's what I see. But outside of that, the talent is very top heavy. Then after you get outside of that 6 or 7, it gets very lean, and now you're making things up. Now you're taking your favorite role players and pretending they're something that they're not. Now, this isn't the first time that the league has been in that position. That's where we're at, in a sense. But the league is trying to tell you that it's something that it isn't. And for the older players who are used to watching entire seasons and entire games and entire playoffs, unlike these kids who I don't knock them for how they consume media, because I lean into that. I know what they mean when they say they watch the game. They watch the game highlights that are like 29 minutes long, if that. But that's how they consume the game. And when you consume the game that way, you miss a lot of the nuances that make you see the flaws in the game versus watching the highlights because that's all you care about. What's wrong with the NBA is they have a cross-generational perception issue. It sounds like something I made up. It's not. It's just what it is. I've observed it. Cross-generational means there's an older generation and a younger generation. Perception means they see the game differently because of how they've been brought into it. How you've been brought into something very much affects how you see it. So when that's at play, you're going to have a miscommunication about what the game means to you. So now you got an old person shouting at a younger person, y'all don't know nothing about the. And the younger dudes be like, you don't know nothing about this. Yeah, You don't see the game as this. Yeah, that's my cross-generational miscommunication language barrier. That's what I got. So in saying that, seeing it for what it is very important, which is why I'm even speaking on it right now. Because that's what's wrong with the NBA. They miss what it was and need to see it for what it is. But it's hard for them. And the younger generation really don't care about how or why we see it the way we see it. They just want us to catch up to them, and rightfully so. Because we felt the same way about our parents. When we was talking about Michael Jordan, where they was talking about Dr. J and World Be Free and all those other old-faced young niggas from the 1970s. But seriously, that's what's wrong with the NBA. It's not broken. It's just being viewed by two separate audiences, and and one part of the audience is mad about what they see. The other part of the audience is like, what y'all mad about? It's the game. And both sides are right and justified in their perception. But we have to understand that it's perception, not fact. And I'm talking to my generation. Just because how you see something is based on how you miss something doesn't make your observation fact. It makes your observation observation. And you can only learn to be more understanding of how these younger people view things because it's how they've been brought into it. So once you understand that, you have less to be mad about. That's what's wrong with the NBA. It didn't do a good job at bringing both generations together like it had in previous years. Because in previous years, it did do a good job at that. And right now, because of how fast the game has grown, there's a gap. There's a gap communicationally. But that's what it is. And the sooner we bridge that gap, the better off we're all going to be when it comes down to it. But that's what's wrong with the NBA. It's bigger than just the sport. It's a generational communication thing. Go. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. This is Wayne Steven. Till next time. Yes, sir. When I pull up in that new shit.